Someone tells you, just stay positive. It sounds kind, harmless, almost impossible to argue with. So why do you suddenly feel worse? Because now you are not only hurting, you feel as if you are failing at feeling better too. And that second reaction may become heavier than the original problem. You open an email you have been waiting for all week, and the first sentence tells you everything. You did not get the job. Your stomach drops before your mind has even found the right words. This mattered to you, the preparation, the waiting, and the future you had already started imagining. Then your phone lights up and a friend asks, "How did it go?" For one honest second, you want to type, "I'm more disappointed than I expected." But that answer feels too heavy, too vulnerable, and somehow too negative. So you send the safer version. "It's fine. I'm staying positive." You even add a smiling emoji, as though your real expression needs to be corrected before anyone sees it. The rejection is still there, but now you have been given a second assignment. You have to perform as if it does not hurt. The first weight comes from what happened. The second comes from believing you should not feel this way about it. Now, you are not merely disappointed, you are ashamed that the disappointment is still there. So, you reach for every cheerful sentence you have heard before. Everything happens for a reason. Other people have it worse. Maybe this is secretly a blessing. The words sound hopeful, yet none of them actually touch what you are feeling. Emotions do not disappear simply because you give them a more acceptable sentence. Sometimes, the sentence becomes a mask, while the original feeling continues underneath it. People often call this pattern toxic positivity. That does not mean optimism, gratitude, or happiness is somehow toxic. It describes the pressure to remain positive when a painful experience first needs to be recognized. It can sound like comfort while quietly minimizing the reality of what happened. Most people who say these things are not trying to hurt you. They may simply feel uncomfortable standing beside pain they cannot immediately solve. Sadness has no quick repair button, and disappointment does not always offer a satisfying explanation. A positive answer creates the feeling that something useful has been done. It may give the speaker relief, but leave the person in pain feeling strangely alone. And eventually, no one else has to tell you to stay positive. You begin saying it to yourself. "I should be grateful. I need to stop being dramatic." A stronger person would have moved on already. Then you start monitoring your mood as if it were another test you could fail. Am I better yet? Why am I still thinking about this? The more closely you search for the unwanted feeling, the more attention you keep giving it. Research on emotional suppression has found that people can reduce what they show without necessarily reducing what they feel. The face may look calmer, while the disappointment remains active inside. Suppressing emotional expression can also require physiological effort, even when nothing looks wrong from the outside. So, appearing fine and actually feeling fine are not always the same thing. Researchers have also studied what happens when people believe others expect them not to feel sad. That perceived pressure can promote harsher self-evaluation and intensify the negative experience. You begin feeling bad about the fact that you feel bad. The original pain is no longer alone. Emotions, however, are not random defects appearing inside an otherwise perfect system. Disappointment often tells you that an outcome mattered. Sadness can point towards something valued that has been lost. Fear may signal uncertainty, risk, or a need for protection. Anger may draw attention to a boundary, injury, or situation that feels unfair. These signals are not always accurate, and they do not have to control every decision. But they still contain information worth examining. When you force the signal into silence, the information does not automatically disappear. It may simply move backstage. Later, it can return as tension, irritability, numbness, exhaustion, or the persistent sense that something remains unresolved. You may not look upset anymore, but a large part of your attention is still occupied with not looking upset. Then you open social media and see smiling faces, major achievements, grateful captions, and perfect morning routines. Everyone else appears to be moving forward while you are still struggling with one email. You compare your unedited internal experience with someone else's selected public moment, and the pressure to look okay becomes another reason to hide. After a breakup, someone says, "You're better off without them." After a rejection, they say, something better is coming. During burnout, they remind you how lucky you are to have the opportunity. In grief, they search for a lesson before you have even processed the loss. At least is often intended to make pain smaller, but when it arrives too early, it may make the person carrying that pain feel smaller instead. Every should attaches a judgment to an emotion that was already difficult. One voice says, "This hurts." Another immediately answers, "It should not." You become trapped between what you actually feel and what you believe you are permitted to feel. That fight is exhausting, but this does not mean the answer is to remain inside every painful feeling forever. Acceptance is not endless rumination, surrender, or refusing to change your situation. Positive thinking can be useful when it helps you see real options that pain has temporarily hidden. Reframing can help when the new perspective is believable, specific, and supported by reality. The difference often lies in timing, and in the job the positive thought is performing. A helpful thought opens space around the emotion. An avoidant thought tries to close the emotion down before it has been understood. So ask yourself, is this thought supporting me or telling me I do not have permission to struggle? The turning point begins when you stop demanding a silver lining and name what is actually here. I'm disappointed, I'm embarrassed, and I'm afraid this rejection says something permanent about me. Naming the feeling does not magically remove it, but it ends the argument over whether it is allowed to exist. Then a more honest sentence becomes possible. I'm disappointed, and I still have things I care about. The gray weight of disappointment remains in the bag. But the extra weight, the pressure to smile, feel grateful, and recover immediately, you open the conversation with your friend and type, "Honestly, I'm more disappointed than I expected." Your finger pauses above the send button as imagined judgments rush in. What if they think you are negative, dramatic, or asking them to solve everything? So you add, "I don't need advice right now. I just needed to say it." Then you send the message before fear can rewrite it into another performance. Your friend begins typing, "Everything happens for a reason." But they stop, read your message again, and delete the automatic answer. Instead, they reply, "That really sucks. I'm here." No advice, no prediction, and no promise that everything will work out. You do not become happy the moment you read it, but your shoulders relax because you are being seen instead of repaired. The disappointment remains, while the need to hide it becomes smaller. So, what can you say when "stay positive" does not help? You do not necessarily need a happier sentence. You may need a more honest one. "This is really hard right now." The words recognize the present without turning it into a permanent future. Something being hard does not mean you are weak for struggling with it. You could also say, "It hurts because it mattered." Pain is sometimes connected to the effort, hope, love, or meaning you invested in the outcome. Recognizing that connection replaces shame with understanding. You can accept that something happened without deciding that it was good, fair, or acceptable. "This happened" is not the same as "this is okay." And when the future is unclear, you can say, "I don't know what happens next." Uncertainty may feel uncomfortable, but it is more honest than a guarantee you do not believe. Hope does not require you to pretend that you know the ending. Sometimes hope is simply enough light to see the next step. "I may not know how this ends, but I can handle the next step." That step might be resting, talking to someone, or making a plan when your mind is clearer. It does not have to be, "Fix my entire life tonight." These sentences are not magical replacements designed to erase emotion. They are steadier ways of speaking to yourself while the emotion is still present. A few days later, a friend sits across from you, carrying disappointment of their own. The old answer rises automatically. "Just stay positive." This time, you notice it before the words leave your mouth. You pause and look at the person instead of searching for the fastest solution. Then you ask, "Would it help more if I listened, or would you like ideas?" Your friend chooses listening. So you put down your phone, stay present, and say, "That makes sense." Validation does not mean agreeing with every conclusion another person reaches. It means recognizing that their emotional response makes sense within the experience they are describing. You do not have to steal their pain, carry it for them, or force it to disappear. You can help make it easier to hold while allowing it to remain theirs. When emotion is given space, it may begin moving at its own pace rather than remaining frozen behind a smile. A genuine laugh might eventually return, not because anyone demanded it, but because more than one emotion can exist at once. Forced positivity is a mask that hides the face underneath. Realistic hope is a small lamp that lets you see the pain and the next step together. Positivity itself is not the enemy. The problem may be the order, forcing yourself to move forward before you have acknowledged where you actually are. A difficult event creates one kind of pain. Judging yourself for that pain can create another. You do not need every compassionate phrase at once. Choose the one that feels most truthful today. The same approach can help with rejection, heartbreak, loneliness, failure, grief, or a plan that suddenly collapses. But self-talk is one tool, not the entire toolbox. Sleep, physical health, trusted relationships, practical support, and professional care can all matter too. If distress persists, feels overwhelming, or significantly affects sleep and daily life, consider reaching out to a qualified professional. The original email may never change, and no perfect lesson has to appear inside it. What can change is the way you carry what happened. The pain is real, and so is the next step. You do not have to feel better before you can begin treating yourself better.